The training facility on Station Kepler 442 hummed with the quiet efficiency of a dozen species, preparing for the Galactic Patrol's infamous endurance trials. Rhea stood in the center of the crystalline chamber, her breath steady, her posture relaxed. Around her, holographic displays flickered with biometric data that made little sense to human eyes but told the alien observers everything they needed to know. Commander Vector, a towering Kralix with scales that shimmered like oil on water, circled her slowly. His four eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture that among his people indicated profound skepticism. "Human," he rumbled, his translator converting the clicks and hisses into standard lingua. "You understand what you have volunteered for?" "Yes, Commander," Rhea replied, her voice calm. Vector's mandibles twitched, the Kralix equivalent of a doubtful smile. In his 3 centuries of training recruits from across the galaxy, he had seen many species attempt the stillness trial. None of the younger races had ever succeeded. The Kralix themselves required decades of meditation training to pass. The crystalline Jothic had a natural advantage with their rock-like physiology. But humans, soft, emotional, restless humans, the trial will last 70 to standard hours, Vector explained. Though he knew she had already been briefed. "You will stand in this chamber without food, without water, without sleep. You may not sit. You may not lean. You may not shift your weight significantly. Environmental conditions will fluctuate." That last word carried weight. The stillness trial wasn't merely about standing still. It was about enduring. Flynn watched from the observation deck above, his hands pressed against the transparent aluminum barrier. He had tried to talk Rhea out of this. The failure rate was 98%, and that was among species with far greater physical resilience than humans. But Rhea had that look in her eyes, the one that said her mind was already made up. "Consequences be damned. She's insane," muttered pilot scholar Kren, a 4-armed Methian whose family had served in the patrol for generations. "Even if her body can handle it, her mind will break. Humans are too active, too emotional." Flynn didn't respond. He knew better than most what Rhea was capable of. The trial began at 0600 hours. Rhea stood with her feet shoulder-width apart, her hands relaxed at her sides, her eyes focused on a point in the middle distance. The chamber's environmental controls activated, and the temperature began to rise. R3 brought heat. The air shimmered at 45 degrees Celsius. Rhea's skin glistened with sweat, but she didn't waver. Her breathing remained steady for counts in, for counts out, a rhythm she had practiced for months. R7 brought cold. The temperature plummeted to -15. Frost formed on the chamber walls. Rhea's lips turned blue. Her body began to shiver involuntarily, but her feet remained planted. She had trained for this too, understanding that shivering was the body's autonomic response, not a failure of will. Vector watched with growing interest. Most candidates broke during the temperature extremes, their bodies forcing movement to generate warmth or seek relief. But the humans stood and stood and stood. R12 brought the sounds. The chamber filled with discordant noise frequencies designed to trigger primal fear responses. Across multiple species, screams, explosions, the chittering of predators long extinct. Rhea's heart rate spiked on the monitors. Flynn saw her jaw tighten, saw the muscles in her neck cord with tension, but she didn't move. "How is she doing this?" Kren whispered, all for eyes wide with disbelief. Flynn smiled slightly. "She grew up in old Chicago. After the collapse, if you can sleep through gang wars and building demolitions, alien horror sounds are just noise." R24 marked the first major milestone. Only 14% of candidates made it this far. Rhea's legs trembled now, microscopic movements as her muscles fatigued. Her eyes had taken on a glassy quality, focused inward rather than outward. Vector increased the difficulty. The chamber's gravity fluctuated 120%, then 80%, then 140%. The shifting weight would throw off balance, force adjustment, compel movement. It was the breaking point for most who made it this far. Rhea swayed, her body compensating for the gravitational chaos. But her feet never lifted. Her stance never broke. She had become something more than simply still. She had become rooted. R48 brought hallucinations. Sleep deprivation combined with sensory manipulation created phantoms in the chamber. Rhea's pupils dilated as she tracked things that weren't there. The monitors showed her brain waves shifting into patterns associated with dreams. Yet her body remained upright. She sleep standing, breathed the Jothic observer, its crystalline voice full of awe. I have only read of this in human medical journals. Their brains can partition sleep and wake simultaneously. Flynn leaned forward. He could see the toll now. Rhea's face was gaunt, her body swaying slightly like a tree in a gentle breeze. But she was still there, still present, still standing. R60 brought the final test pain. The chamber floor activated neural stimulators, sending pulses through Rhea's feet that mimicked standing on broken glass, on hot coals on ice. Her face contorted, tears streaming down her cheeks. The monitors showed her pain receptors firing like a supernova. Stop this, Flynn said quietly. She's proved enough. The trial continues until completion or failure, Vector replied. But his voice held something new. Respect. R71. Rhea's body was shutting down. Her kidneys were stressed, her core temperature dangerously low, her blood sugar nearly depleted. By all medical standards, she should have collapsed hours ago. But humans, the galaxy was learning, didn't always obey medical standards. R72. The chamber's lights changed from red to green. Rhea stood, trembling, tears frozen on her cheeks, her body a map of endurance and defiance. She had not moved an inch from her original position. Vector entered the chamber and stood before her. Slowly, with a reverence rarely shown by the proud Kralix, he lowered his massive head in a bow. You have passed, human Rhea, he said. And in doing so, you have taught this old warrior something new about strength. Rhea's lips moved, her voice barely a whisper. What's that? That the fiercest battles are not fought with movement, but with the will to remain. Flynn was already running to the chamber as Rhea finally, mercifully, allowed her knees to buckle. He caught her before she hit the ground, lifting her easily in his arms. You're completely insane, he murmured against her hair. Rhea managed a weak smile. Told you. I could do it. As Flynn carried her to medical, word was already spreading through the station. A fragile, short-lived human had passed the stillness trial. Not through superior physiology or centuries of training, but through sheer, stubborn, magnificent human will. The galaxy was taking notice. And humanity, once again, had shown them why underestimating Earth's children was a mistake no wise species made twice.